Sure, Superman may look the same, but no, he's not the same. Here's a look at the McFarlane Toys DC Multiverse Action Comics Gold Label Collection, Superman. The Man of Steel is not impervious to harm. He is weakened and will eventually die if he's exposed to kryptonite, radioactive remnants of his own homeworld. He has no defense against magic, and his mind will succumb to sufficient sonic assault, but his real vulnerability is dependence on yellow solar radiation. Deprived of that, he'll become a mere mortal. If anything can be said for this Krypton, at least he has a cloth cape. Before we look at that cloth cape and all the things that are connected to it, taking first, though, the tape measure and see how tall the Gold Label Collection Action Comics Superman actually stands. This figure I actually found at Walmart, which was a good find. I mean, I was going there for everything else but action figures. I just happened to go down the toy aisle, and this one guy was sitting on the shelf calling to me. Hey, come over here. I said, wait, what? Are you talking to me? My daughter says, no, I wasn't talking to you. Then I realized, though, that Superman was talking to me, and I added this guy to my cart. My daughter also said, didn't you already have Superman in my collection? And I just said, shh, quiet. We don't have to talk about this. Superman, though, is going to stand at 7 inches in height. In fact, the figure is going to be standing at a little over 17.5 centimeters tall. I may have exaggerated that story just a little bit. The actual words I said to my daughter was, shh, don't tell Mom. Bringing in, though, the other Superman that this mold is somewhat sharing. Here's what the figure looks like with, first, the regular Superman, which this guy's been released, I think, twice already. He's also was released with the Atomic Skull 2-pack. This guy on the other side, the Angry Expression Superman, was also, I believe, released in a 2-pack, maybe with Destroyer. Similar, though, molds you can see, like leg-wise, basically from like the waist down is exactly the same. One thing, though, that the new figure does is it, first of all, gets rid of the plastic cape. So if you don't like plastic capes, it's been axed altogether. They have also axed the larger Superman symbol, which up to this point was molded to his body. It's not molded, though, anymore. Along with his mold also returning his flight stands. The flight stand consists of 2 parts, so if you don't want to have the neck altogether, just leave it off. You don't have to put it on there. No one's twisting your arm in order to do that. If you want to just have it on its own, you could still get use of the DC logo that's featured on the front. You can also still make full use of the peg that's featured on the front that can plug into either one of Superman's feet. With the slots on the back, just don't even look at that. Don't even look at that. Just look at this and have your figure displayed that way. Okay, if you want to look at the back, you're going to take the adjustable neck. Now, it's only adjustable here on the top, and this just slides in place. So these little slots here on the side basically just fits into the canal. Take a little bit of a push until everything snaps in place. Now you got yourself a flight stand. The flight stand can work 2 ways. First of all, this has a hinge so you can move it up and down. This also does open up. Now you can take your Superman figure, just move his cloth cape out of the way, and that just plugs around his waist. Providing, of course, I get the blasted cloth cape out of the way. You can either have him levitating like that, little boring, I know. Or what you can also do, too, is you can have Superman posed down like this, and then just bring his flat hands, attach those flat hands, of course, to the ones that are on over there, and just plug those in place. Now you can have Superman in flight. Might just end up doing that. We'll do that a little bit later, though. Let's just take this and remove it, put it off to the side for at least right now. The figure does also come included with the trading card. Really like this trading card. This is Action Comics Superman. You can see Clark Kent. We still don't have a Clark Kent. You know, you would think by now we could have a Clark Kent. We have a Hush body. I think the Hush body could probably be either retooled for Commissioner Gordon, which we also don't really have. We have Commissioner Gordon that also came packed along with that bat armor piece. I'm going off on a tangent. But a Clark Kent certainly would be one I would love to see paired along with Superman. Clark Kent, though, featured at the back. Superman featured from the front. Nice looking card, though. On the back, his real name is Kal-El and Clark Kent. I don't think he goes by Kal-El when he's working at Metropolis. I mean, kind of sort of the big dead giveaway. I mean, obviously you could just put glasses on the guy too. That would be also a big dead giveaway. And there's a pretty decent read-up that gives you kind of the nitty-gritty, the basics of all about Superman. Now you can pause and read for yourself. I've already beaten it to you for that. Well, it's tongue-tied. I've beaten you to that. I've already taken the liberty of reading the information that's featured on the back of the card. You don't have to. I've already done it for you. You still want to read it? Okay, there you go. Hold up the rest of the line, why don't you? Okay, let's move it off to the side. Figure does also come include some swappable hands. Now, right now, Superman has a closed fist on one side, a gripping hand on the other. Ideally, I would have liked if the figure could have come with another closed fist. I mean, just again, if you want to have him in that stoic pose of having Superman with his arms against his waist, Kind of looks a little strange that he has a gripping hand then on one side, and he also doesn't come in with any accessories whatsoever to justify why they even include the gripping hand in the first place. But let's just say you're somebody who likes to have your Superman in flight. The figure does come included with two, not just one, but two. Stand there for a second, Superman. Comes with two flat hands. The hands themselves, I'm sure we've gotten before, and it's just a case of obviously just taking a hand that you want to remove and just detach it. There you go. Still using pretty long pegs. And then we'll find the hand that we want to use. Thumbs still go in whether you're Kryptonian or not. And that just plugs onto the peg just like that. And now you got yourself Superman in a flight pose. We'll just kind of, I mean, you know, again, it needs still a flight stand, but the flight stand's just over there. We'll bring it back for final looks. And you can just rinse and repeat the same steps. Just do it over here as well. So for Superman, there is a fair bit that's been changed to this mold. And obviously for that, I'm going to be bringing back in the original Superman. I'll tell you the things that I like about this figure, and I'll tell you the things that I still think the original Action Comics does maybe just a little bit better. Starting maybe, though, with the things I like more on this figure is I think I like the blue a little bit better. Now, this blue certainly goes a little more primary, but I think there's something to be said with the softer blue that they use for this figure. He also is a lot less shiny. The new Superman Action Comics with the cloth cape does have a more shinier blue plastic. I still think I like the darker. I like this blue more, and I wish the blue could have carried over to this figure. The trunks, very much similar, although the trunks are brighter red on the newer release. The legs, of course, carrying over the same coloring of plastic is going to be the same blue as the torso above. And, of course, then you got yourself your legs. The legs look a little bit more, I want to say, like a tomato ketchupy red as opposed to more like the neutral red that it was before. I still feel like the colors on this guy are better than the new colors that they used for Superman. Granted, though, I know the new Action Comics Superman kind of goes with more primary colors, but I think the blue on this guy looks a little bit better. Now, one thing also, the big changes made between the two figures is the fact that the plastic cape is now gone completely. They have given him now a cloth cape, and the thing I really like, this might be one of the first times? It certainly is the first time a Superman, I think, has gotten a cloth cape. But we also now have an emblem, the yellow Superman emblem on the back. It is large, I understand that. Maybe if it was just a little bit smaller, it would have worked a little bit better. But let's take the positives here, at least. The fact that figure has a cloth cape. The positive that he also has the yellow emblem on the back of his cape as well. Things that up to this point we really have been asking from McFarlane's team. The fact we finally get that is a really nice touch. Now, with the cloth cape taking over, though, the one thing that they have had to do instead is they've sculpted an additional neck piece. When we got the first Action Comics Superman, the neck really didn't have to go all that far. Or maybe it did, and it's just completely covered over by the plastic. The new Superman, though, exposes his neck. It's one thing, though, I don't really like about the new James Gunn Superman design is that they just completely cover over his neck with a high collar. I always really liked Superman with a bare neck like this, where the cape really just stuck out the sides. Now, it looks what they've done is they've tucked the fabric cape underneath, basically, the plastic appliance for his neck. It does look sort of a little choppy here on the side. You can kind of see there's a little gap right there, but the cape clearly is tucked in place. But again, small victories here. One thing I don't know if I really love is that they've given him a metallic Superman emblem. Now, again, what they've done with the original one is they've taken the molded emblem off altogether, and one of the complaints for this figure was that the emblem was way too big. It literally just went from shoulder to shoulder, and it took up so much real estate space on the front of his chest. This one now doesn't even have it molded, it's just printed in place. So, like, there's no additional texturing to this at all. It's not certainly raised from his body. I like that Superman emblems are more flat to his body. I feel like they don't need to look like they're shields. Superman isn't going to be taking off his emblem and throwing big oh yeah, he did do that. He did sort of throw his plastic S at General Zod in Superman. Anyways, I would have rather preferred if they could have used just primary colors, not using like the metallic red. I mean, like the yellow looks like it's just a regular yellow. Why couldn't they have just used maybe the same red as they used for the trunks down below here? The shiny S just doesn't evoke for me the look to a classic looking Superman. I would have again changed the coloring of the blue, and my personal opinion, I probably would have made the emblem less metallic and more again like the coloring of his trunks. Whether they be again a little bit more of that ketchup color red. Still though, I think it would have worked better than the metallic that they've used instead. Now, while looking at the two heads, you may initially think that they are the exact same to one another. And I was thinking that too. Although it does look like there's something different about the face sculpts. I don't know what it is exactly, but it certainly does look like his face looks a little lower down. And I'm sure if anything, it's only more an optical illusion. it also seems like his face is maybe just a little bit smaller than the other. Whether it's just my own vision or not that's throwing this figure's mold off or not, I still think, though, this is one of the best Superman molds we've gotten. The Superman curl is still there, although now with the gold label collection, they've now added a blue tint, where the original Superman didn't really have that. I think the Atomic Skull, now that I think about this, isn't the Atomic Skull Superman. The Atomic Skull, I think, added some additional blue. This original Action Comics doesn't have that. I do think like the coloring is a little bit nicer, though, on this figure than it is on this one. He is a little more on the paler side, but again, certainly one of the best Superman head sculpts we still have gotten. Legs seem to be exactly the same. They've also carried over the same sculpting of his arms. So if you like the shoulders, the biceps, and the forearms on this figure, you're going to like it on this figure as well. So like enough changes, I feel like it's not just a case that they slapped on a fabric cape. Even if they just did that alone, I think that this figure would still be worth the pickup. But the fact that they've now done away with the emblem, whether you like the metallic look or not, there's enough change to this figure that I feel like I didn't spend the money to get a figure that I already have in my collection, even though essentially I already have that mold like now 4 times. I think it's now the 4th time I have this figure. There's enough changes here. I like the blue, I think, a little bit better on the original release. I certainly would have gone again with more lighter colors of red and not gone with the metallic. But like from head to toe, it's a vast improvement, or enough of an improvement, I think, to justify the pickup. Now for the figure's articulation, going back to his head sculpt here, head's going to rotate like with the original one all the way around. The head can look up about that high, and it can also look down. You can also move it back and forth as well. The upper torso, yes, is going to be on a ball joint. The lower torso also on a ball joint. The arms rotate all the way around. In fact, both arms can pull out a T pose. Although I notice with the shoulders on this side, it's a little bit tighter. The figure does have also a swivel in the bicep, whether you choose that arm or you want to choose this arm. The arm also, unfortunately, only is going to have that single hinge. Because they are still using the Action Comics arm, not only are you going to have those rigid marks that they put on the original articulated elbows, but also, again, he's only going to have a single hinge in the elbow. I know some people really like the double hinges. I mean, I will say, at least for the hinge on the Superman here, when you bend the arm, at least it gives you a natural elbow shape. It doesn't look like it's just a big gap. The hands themselves, they rotate all the way around, whether you want to use these hands or not. Let's just get his... I want to make sure I've got this facing the right way here. Bring his arm down like that. There we go. Legs split out. You still are using softer trunks. You aren't, I know. McFarlane is using the softer trunks. These don't seem as soft, though, as some of the other Superman, or really for that matter, any Action Comic figures we've looked at before. It seems like they've maybe have used a denser plastic. Still has a little bit of give, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's as squishy. Stop squeezing Superman's crotch. The legs do split out that far. You, of course, can take the legs and move forward. You can move them back. A little bit of a swivel there on the top of the thigh. Double hinge, at least, it gets afforded the knees. You get no articulation here for Superman's boots, but at least, though, you have articulation here in the ankles. They move up and down. They rock back and forth. And yes, Superman does have still toe articulation. One of the other things, too, is that you may notice that the pegs here for Superman's ankles aren't quite, though, the same color as the top of the boot and the boot below it. But still, again, at least they are using a color very close. Again, it may stand out a little bit more. They've also kind of somewhat done the similar thing here for his wrists here. The wrists are also kind of using a little bit lighter of a color of plastic compared to the rest of his arms. But other than that, other than maybe, again, like the coloring of the blue, maybe not quite, for me at least, being as good as the original Superman. And I still feel like the emblem probably could have been a little bit better. Lighter colors. Going away really with the metallic. The metallic red I don't think works as well for the figure's mold. But again, like bringing back the original Superman, which I know now is the original Superman, the one that was packed still with Atomic Skull. I've got him, I think, in a bag somewhere sitting inside my tote. But, you know, again, like to look at the mold, yes, they are using the same torso, same arms, some lower torso, same legs. Still, though, the fact that he now has a fabric cape complete with an emblem now, finally, on the back of it. He has also, again, like the removed raised emblem on the front of his chest, which I know some people didn't really like. I didn't mind it as much. One thing, though, I didn't really like was the fact that the emblem, the Superman's shape, took up so much space on the front of his chest. So, of course, they have reduced it. They've made it more the classic shape that he has in the comics. Yeah, you know, there is enough changed here where I feel like, obviously, they are using the mold again, but I don't feel like I'm getting just the exact carbon copy of Superman before. Even though this one does stuff that I still think is a little bit better than the new Action Comics, I'm still finally happy to have an Action Comics that finally has a fabric cape. I think if you're going to go back to the mold well and dust off a figure and give him slight new modern tweaks, the Action Comics Superman is the best one going still. He doesn't feel too outdated. I mean, obviously, some of the problems that plagued this original release of Superman was the fact he looked looks still like he's missed leg day. He's still relegated to only single hinges in his elbows, while all his other comrades all now have double hinges on his elbows. But if you're looking at the rest of Superman, though, it's got still one of the best head sculpts around. It still has a broad body, and it still has the classic trunks. With Superman, though, I mean, it's not just a case that they slapped on a fabric cape. They have tweaked some of the paint, whether good, whether bad. The blue works quite well, though, with the cape. I still would have preferred the softer blue that they used with the original Action Comics. And one of the biggest things going is the fact that they've now removed the raised emblem on the front of his chest, which I know was a big thing for some of the collectors that didn't like it. The emblem now being part of his body and not on top of his body works a little bit better for a classic-looking Superman. And again, with the head sculpt, still one of the best heads we've gotten for Superman. The fabric cape, though, is the icing on the cake. It's one of the things that makes this figure. That it also makes one of the biggest reasons why you'd want to pick up this figure if you've already had this mold now 3 times already in your collection. Now, maybe not the original Action Comics, but certainly the one that was kind of slightly more tweaked, that came packed along with Atomic Skull. For a while, he's been my definitive Superman, still standing in the forefront of my shelf. This guy, I feel, is going to be replacing him, and that one with Atomic Skull is going to go back in the bag with all the other Action Comics Superman. Again, I did find this one at Walmart, but even if I didn't find this one at Walmart, I probably still would have sourced one out online, because again, it's one of my best favorite Superman molds, and they've tweaked it enough so it feels like he's still modern with the rest of the figures we're getting now. What do you guys think of this Action Comics Superman? Enough tweaks made to it that's still worth picking up, or it's still a mold that you just don't like? Let me know what you feel of this figure down below in the comment section. Also, if you guys did enjoy this video, you can do it a solid and throw it a like. You guys want to stick around for more so? I hope so. Hit that subscribe, yeah. Turn on the bell, okay? And certainly most importantly is that you're coming back. As always, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.